Hey everybody, welcome to the DudeFax podcast. This month we are talking about masculinity. We talked a little bit about toxic masculinity last week. We're going to continue talking about the topic of masculinity, specifically looking at the example of Jesus today. So we're going to have some great discussion on deck. But before we get started, I'm with the lovely DudeFax crew as always, Jay Philly, Factoid, and Bend Over. So I want to play a little game with you guys because I feel like we don't really take time to just be silly and joke around enough. And part of being a man is just being able to know when it's time to have a little fun and joke around, right? So we're going to play a little game called Finish the Meme. And for those of you at home, don't worry. This isn't a visual thing. So if you're not watching, you're only listening, you're going to be able to be in on the joke, all right? You're still good. These aren't memes that you need the picture to have to finish them. So I'm going to read the first part of the meme, and then you have to guess what the rest of the meme says. Okay? So here's the first one. My wife was complaining about my gas, so I got someone else to fart for me. Finish the meme.
Like there's a line here?
Yeah.
All right, say the first part again.
My wife was complaining about my gas, so I got someone else to fart for me.
I don't know.
A substitute, if you will.
Oh, I see where we're going. Okay. A substitute.
All right, that was just warming us up. All right.
Okay. I'm on board.
Here we go. Monk who claims he saw face of Jesus in his margarine tub. What's the rest of the meme?
I can't believe it's not Buddha.
Yes, you nailed it. Boom.
Nice.
Yes. I can't believe it's not Buddha. All right. Here we
Buddha
go.
or Buddha?
Buddha or Buddha. Balloons are so weird.
How weird are they?
That's what you have to tell me.
Indeed.
Balloons are so weird. Happy birthday. Here's a plastic sack of my breath.
Oh my God.
All right,
We got the substitute to fill it.
It's true. All right, Grant is going to get this one. He is the dad joke master. I know. My new dog, Minton, just ate all my shuttlecocks.
You already lost me.
I just want you to say that again.
He's a badminton. I mean, that's where you're going.
Boom.
You lost me at the end of it.
Yeah, my new dog, Minton, just ate all my shuttlecocks.
Yeah.
Badminton.
Yeah.
All right.
Who calls it that, by the way? Like, it's like everybody I've ever met says birdie, but
Yeah. Yeah, the shuttlecock is, it's just too long of a word.
it's really
That's the problem with it.
All right, here's another one. Are you bored? Go to Target and go to the fitting rooms.
Are you bored? Go to Target and go to the fitting room.
All I'm thinking is fitting this pizza in my mouth, but that's
It's close.
Worst thing about these is that when you say what it actually is, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. But I'm
This
trying
one
to think
not
of
so
what
much,
it is.
but
I have no
it is
idea.
funny. So, are you bored? Go to Target and go to the fitting rooms. Then yell out, "Hey, there's no toilet paper in here."
see, that's a confessional joke.
It applies there too.
Your background is appropriate at this point, Grant.
All right, this one you may have heard. So if you've heard or seen this meme, then you already know it. But this one is pretty tough to get, but it's a lot of fun. What's your favorite paradox?
Oh, it's a boat joke. I know it.
Is it
Nothing about boats.
It
Doc
has
Martens?
oxen.
It has to do with music, particular musician.
So not a gynecologist.
The spin doctors?
Nope.
My favorite paradox.
Paradoc Martins.
I would be shocked if you guys got this if you didn't know it already. Okay, what's your favorite paradox? Here we go. Listen closely. If you ask Rick Astley for his copy of the movie Up, he cannot give it to you as he will never give you up. However, in doing so, he lets you down, thus creating the Astley paradox.
That's good.
All right, that was fun.
That was good.
Way to go, guys.
What was our grade?
You got like one right? Oh, no, two. You guys got two. So
Out of how many?
Two out of 6 or 7.
Grade wise, that was like
30%.
reliving that one semester of college where I failed geography.
Oh,
You failed geography?
Yeah, it was more because I didn't show up to class, but
I'll do it.
Was the
Oh,
first
geography.
day like a map of Russian cities or something?
Dude, that's exactly like the geography joke in The Office. You had to be there.
Looking at the score, 2 out of 6. Like, that's not a bad batting average. So,
No, it's not. If this was baseball, you would be a real man.
mm-hmm.
But no, this is meme guessing, in which I don't know. Anyway, we're talking about masculinity, real men here today, and we're talking about Jesus and his model of true masculinity, having power under control, if you will. We know that the strength of Christ, we know that Jesus obviously is courageous and displays that through his journey to the cross. Jesus was protective. Jesus is servant-hearted. He came to serve, not to be served. He made himself nothing, taking on the form of a servant, as we see, as we're reminded of in scriptures like Philippians chapter 2. We also see the compassion. So we see the strength of Christ. We also see the compassion of Christ. His emotions, his vulnerability. Jesus sheds tears in the shortest Bible verse in all of the Bible. Jesus wept, John 11:35. We see Jesus have respect for women. So if we're talking masculinity specifically as it relates to respect for the opposite sex, Jesus had respect for women. We see that in numerous ways, but one of the ways we see that is in his encounter with the Samaritan woman, John chapter 4. Also, Jesus and the adulterous woman in John 7 and 8, saying, "Let he without sin cast the first stone." So the traits that we see from Jesus, obviously we're supposed to model as Christians. If we say we're a Christ follower, we want to emulate him. We want to follow after him. However, as with a lot of things, when we talk about the character of Christ and how we sort of believe as Americans, or maybe even just human beings, but specifically Westerners, Americans, since we live here, I think it challenges some of those maybe presuppositions or postmodern thought of what a man should be, or cultural thought of what a man should be. And what ways do you see that Jesus's character and his example as a man challenges modern day thought on what a man should be in our culture?
An easy low-hanging one is we often think about the kid, but we don't know who he actually brought. So when Jesus is questioned by his disciples, who was greatest among them, way before the Passover debate that they had the same question, is in Matthew 18. He brings a little kid as an object lesson and puts the little kid in front of them. He's like, "Hey, kid, come here." "Why?" "No, just come here." And he says you have to be like one of these to enter the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And then he doubles down on it. He talks about sin and being real with our own sin. The hyperbolic statements, cut out your eye, cut off your hand and foot if they all cause you to sin. But then again, he hits humility again, referring to little ones. And so in bro culture, I mean, it's be big, be huge, get huge, not try to be like a little one, which is fascinating. It's those with childlike faith that have that holy dependence upon God, not the independent, not the did it my way. It's the one clinging to Christ who's actually the strongest.
Yeah, and that gets after really what was going to be the second part of this question, which really is similar to how I asked it originally. It was, how do Jesus's traits challenge machismo, that macho bravado, or even passive apathy that we talked about in the last episode? So yeah, feel free to tackle either one of those questions. I think Josh, you had something.
I had just a thought as listen to what Grant was saying, that I think that because of what Christianity requires of those who want to be Jesus's disciples, that it does make it very difficult, I think, for a man who is steeped in what culture generally says is masculine to take that step, because following Jesus means an understanding that you don't have it all together. There's an admission that you're lacking in something, and then a dependency on someone else. And culture for men, whether culture gives it to us or not, I think we take on this thought. And I know dads and maybe past generations, there was a lot of toughen up, men don't cry, get your act together, stuff like we kind of have this off. We've got to look like it's all done and we're handling everything. And just following Jesus requires flipping that upside down and be like, no, I don't have it all together. And Jesus did have it all together. But yet he was not boastful about that. He was very humble, and you mentioned serving, that he came to serve, not be served. And, you think of that image of him the night before his death, washing the feet of his friends, of the disciples, even the one that was going to betray him. And you think, man, that's true. That's true laying yourself down, true humility for the kingdom. And that's really what's most powerful.
I think too, kind of, in that same time frame, biblically, talking about Jesus, we are, as men, I think culturally very reactionary, and it's very easy for us to be like, somebody wrongs us or somebody, sometimes it's easy. We get real defensive real quick, right? But you see in the, in the garden, when the guards come to take Jesus and his disciples, their first thing is like, we want to fight, we want to defend you. And Jesus, he shows restraint and shows patience. And he's like, no, let's let this, let's go with God's plan. Let's not in our own weakness really fight because we're scared. Let's actually, this is what needs to happen. And I think that's a perfect example for how men should be, and how it challenges the way men are culturally, is that, Jesus he's patient, and he's always, thinking before he acts, and there's, plenty of example of that. But, in man culture, we're really just taught to be, oh, you're not manly unless you defend yourself, unless you really, don't let anyone step on you type thing. But that's not what Jesus shows us, and that's not the person he asks us to be.
If you're reading through scripture for the first time and you get to that night in the garden when they come to arrest him and Peter cuts off the dude's ear, like if you're reading that for the very first time, you'd get there and be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Right. And then she's like, no, let's put that away. And you're like, oh yeah, that's what I mean. Let's pump it. Because I think that's probably one of the coolest things that you read in scripture is just chopping dude's ear off. And then Jesus goes around and puts it back, which is what was right.
Is it weird to still like both?
Yeah.
Like, that was awesome at the same time. Yeah, Jesus is right.
It's like dude got his ear chopped off. It's almost like a magic trick. It's like, oh, put it back.
Like the nose.
Right. Got your ear.
You know, as we talk about the strength of Jesus, I think being courageous is something men can get on board with. Being protective, men can get on board with. Even servant-hearted, which I know is still a struggle for men, but I think the idea of serving, I mean, that's why a lot of men serve in, you know, any capacity, you know, whether it be military service or, you know, being a firefighter or a police officer,
Unless you have
emergency
earrings.
responder. Yeah, unless you're one of those that just village people. Anyway,
Ethan.
but I think that strength of Christ for most men, they can get on board with say, okay, yeah, that's real manhood right there. But it's that compassion that Jesus shows, you know, in terms of the emotions that he shows, his vulnerability, the tears that he sheds, the respect that he shows, but even not being passive in that he didn't want to deal with conflict, but being passive in a way because he knew that he's being more active in his Father's will than reacting. You know, as Ryan talked about men being reactive to a particular situation. And I think that's where we struggle sometimes, especially in Western culture, because we are taught, even if your dad didn't grow up teaching you this, or, you know, whatever father figures in your life or men in your life didn't grow up teaching you don't cry. There just seems to be this sort of unspoken rule about showing emotion and that it's associated with weakness. Pastor Mark Driscoll, I know we don't talk about him enough on this show, but Pastor Mark Driscoll wrote a book on manhood, and the name of the book is Act Like a Man, 9 Ways to Punch Life in the Mouth.
Right.
Now, if that doesn't sound like a great book on biblical toxic masculinity, I don't know what is. But there was this guy I work with who is a great guy, great Christian brother. We've had a lot of great conversations, and he's leading a Bible study at his church, and he picked up this book. I don't know if he wanted to do it or somebody in his group wanted to do it, and he was reading it. I saw it on his desk one day, and I said, you have to let me know how that is. I hadn't read it. And he said, it's real interesting, and I said, well, that doesn't surprise me because Driscoll's just that kind of guy. He's you either love him or you don't, or, you know, it's real easy for him to rub you the wrong way, especially if you've never been exposed to his writings or preaching before. But anyway,
How much you love
it still piqued my curiosity, and so I found the book on Spotify, and I turned it on and started listening to it. First of all, he has his teenage son read the book. And one of the reasons why he has his teenage son read the book is because he didn't think his son would actually read the book. This was his way of forcing his son to read the book.
parenting?
So it's everything you can imagine about forcing a teenage boy to read a book. That's what the quality is awful. I'll just say that. Our DudeFax podcast puts it to shame. And that's no exaggeration or joke. But as I'm listening to this, there's just some things that really just stood out to me as crossing from talking about Christ-like masculinity, or the model of Jesus being a man, more to culturalisms, and specifically toxic masculinity in our culture. And I was reading some things that Driscoll has said in talking about manhood. He's really... he's one of his soapboxes is that he believes, and these are his words, the problem with the church today is that it's led by a bunch of chickified dudes. Now, his whole point was dudes in skinny jeans as pastors or worship leaders, pastors that are too emotional, guys just who don't have that sort of machismo bravado about them.
Does he just not know that the pastors aren't wearing skinny jeans? They're just fat?
I don't know, because he's kind of a bigger guy.
I'm just overweight, Mark.
Yeah, these aren't skinny jeans. We're just fat.
Yeah.
I mean, but
And pastors were poor, so they can't afford to get new jeans all the time. So
they're spending all the money on food.
But he also talks about how the church often portrays Jesus. Not so much how the Bible portrays Jesus, but how the church sort of portrays Jesus, particularly when it comes to the loving side of Jesus, which is a big part of Jesus because God is love. Jesus is the ultimate example of love. Greater love has no man than one who lays down life for his friends. I mean, Jesus is that example, but Driscoll seems to have a problem with how the church portrays Jesus as sort of being gentle and meek and not very masculine. And then these are, again, his words. And he specifically said, I cannot worship a guy I can beat up. So saying that the way that the church portrays Jesus is such in a way that Driscoll thinks this is some weakling that I could just pound, rather than being a more tough and rugged Jesus, which I guess Mark Driscoll prefers. But I know I'm picking on Driscoll here, but this is a Christian man, a man who claims to be Christian, pastor. But I feel like this is very commonplace in not only our culture but our churches, and trying to sort of fit Jesus into this version that is more Western, rugged and masculine versus what the Bible actually says he is. Have you guys see this played out any?
Yeah, I think I definitely don't think that's a uniquely Driscoll take.
Yeah.
I see that, especially on social media and TikTok and Instagram. Like I see that sentiment from male Christian leaders pretty often, actually. And I think it goes back to one thing we talked about before with like that's how our culture views manliness. But every culture is different, and it's not like that. That's such a weird substandard box to try to fit Jesus in. Like I don't understand. I don't. That's such a weird hang up to get on. Like, oh, Jesus isn't portrayed rugged and manly enough for me, so like I can't worship that Jesus. Like that's a crazy statement in my opinion. I really think that Jesus and gentleness is part of being manly. Like there are times when you need to be gentle. It's about appropriateness and being for the time and what the situation calls for. Like sometimes you need to be gentle, and I think that's part of being a biblically godly man.
And sometimes you got to flip tables over.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's situationally dependent.
Well, 3 thoughts. The first is that guy was using Mark Driscoll's book for a Bible study. Does he know that's not the Bible?
He quickly abandoned it. So.
That's quite literally not a Bible study. There's a book to read for a Bible study. It's in the title. But then Jesus' own words in his first public address in Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount, right? He says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And then finally, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of false evil against you on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So it's not that we should seek those like some ascetic-minded people do, but those should be the expectations. Jesus says, pick up your cross daily and follow me. Not your sword, your cross. And then my final thought is, it's just philosophically garbage. I can't worship a God that I could beat up, because you remember the centurion. So this is Mark 15. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in the way he breathed his last, when Jesus said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Or actually, in Mark's gospel, it was the Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? But the centurion himself says, truly this man was the Son of God. So this man is revering the man he is culpable, and he might have even been the guy to put the nails in Jesus' hands himself. So these are the people who literally killed Jesus, revering and potentially worshiping Jesus. So philosophically, that's impossible. Of course, you can worship someone that you killed if that person freely gave his life for you and let you kill him. And our sins were what put him on the cross in the first place. So in that sense, yeah, Mark, you killed him. We all killed him. And we worship him. Well,
Where's
just
the
philosophically,
Jesus?
something's
Perfect
wrong.
time for an air horn.
Jesus must be thinking,
Well, and we've talked about it with obviously we know that meekness is not weakness. We've used that statement before in church, but that whole idea of self-control, which is obviously part of the fruit of the Spirit, and one of the things that Jesus does better than anybody, obviously, is exhibit self-control. And you could just look back to his temptation in the desert, the self-control that Jesus shows, the restraint that he shows, and then the appropriate use of, when he flips over the tables of his frustration and anger. He it's not that he's afraid to use it. He's not being passive. He just understands when he needs to show this and when he doesn't. And it goes back to self-control. I think that's something that we as men struggle with immensely, and not just Western men, but any men, is self-control of, in so many regards, whether it be the words that come out of our mouth, to the abuse of substances, to our anger, when it comes to sex, whatever we want, whatever area of life we want to think about, exhibiting that self-control. And a very, very important part of biblical manhood as demonstrated by Christ. And so that really leads me into where I want us to wrap up, is just thinking about what part of Jesus's example do you need to grow into as a man? And I think that's, for me, self-control. Obviously, I can look at the strength of Christ and, again, get on board with all of that. Not saying I do it perfectly, but say, yes, I want to live like that. I want to be like that. I struggle a little bit with some of the emotional part of, shedding tears appropriately and sometimes holding back because, yes, my cultural definition of manhood sometimes seeps in, and I don't want to shed a tear. I'm embarrassed to do it, but I understand that, and I could see that too. But it's that self-control that I think, for me, jumps out as, Jesus knew when to say things. He knew when to listen. He knew when to demonstrate. He knew when to not. He knew when to, you'd say holding back. It's probably not the right word, but, again, to show force and when he didn't need to show force. And he was patient in that. And I know I am not any of those things and struggle with it in so many different areas. So maybe just a challenge to our listeners as we get ready to wrap up. What part of Jesus' example do you need to grow into as a man? Great thoughts. We're going to continue our conversation on manhood the next couple of weeks. And, we're glad that you've joined us. But let's let the conversation continue. You can get online and jump on our TikTok, our Instagram, and obviously all the places that you listen to the DudeFax podcast, from YouTube to Spotify to Apple Podcast to wherever, and comment, and we'll read those comments and try not to make fun of you unless you're Seco and you still think that LeBron is better than Jordan, which I don't quite understand. We'll have you engage in the conversation with us. Sorry, you had something, Josh?
LeBron's not even greater than Caitlin Clark. I mean, MJ said that she was the Jordan of the WNBA. So
boom. Yeah, LeBron can't say that.
Whoever the LeBron is of the WNBA is probably the Angel Reese girl. I want to punch her.
Is that toxic masculinity?
Roll. I haven't done it.
That's one thing I want people to comment over the next week. Tell us in the comments, whether on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Tell us who you sit around thinking about who you could beat up. That's what I want to know.
Gorilla. 100 of us
Oh,
think
yeah.
together about beating up a gorilla.
Yeah.
Not Harambe.
No.
I think right now Trump and Elon are thinking about beating each other up, but that's a whole different story. So
That's
let
where
us,
we are by the time this episode comes out.
let us who would know and,
Back and forth.
who would win in a fight between
Well, this week they're
those two. Yeah, it goes back and forth. It's like a roller
When's
coaster.
Celebrity Deathmatch going to come back?
It needs to. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We love you. DudeFax podcast out. Listen to us next week. More masculinity. Boom.